Welcome to Saturday's Warrior, to this very late daylight savings Holy War edition of Saturday's Night Live as we go back. At some technical difficulties here with the playback. Sorry about that. Um, all right. So, welcome. Uh-oh. Just a Sorry about that. All right, we are back and let's roll here as we review the Holy War. BYU Utah facing off for the second time this season, finishing up the regular season in Provo with what was a kind of a weird game, but ultimately ended how we expected. Still, Utah was able to claw back a little bit. They showed a lot of heart there at the end, kept fighting, and closed up the gap at the end. But ultimately, it was the result we all expected. So, anyway, as we get rolling here tonight, thank you for joining and hop in the chat. Give me your thoughts, feedback, reactions to the game. Obviously, uh, this was not one that was expected to be overly competitive. But again, with these two games and the rivalry, anything could happen. Utah did win the first one, so you never know. And the way BYU came out tonight, not playing their best, playing looking a bit shaky. But as we've seen this season, that they've been able to overcome those starts and be able to play and win in different styles of play and really figure things out. So good win for Cougars tonight. So anyway, like I said, it is very late, so we're not going to be overly late, but I do want to go through and talk about this game a little bit here. So, as we mentioned, it was a slow start, rough start, and not exactly what we wanted to see. And it's funny that, the seniors were a lot of them that were struggling a lot, at least at first. We ended up having a good showing, and I think all of them certainly had their moments throughout the game and left their stamp on it, which is exactly what you want to see. And the best news is that we're still going, and they're going to have more opportunities here as we get into the postseason. So, what does this mean the for the tournament now, for the Big 12? That ultimately for BYU, not a lot. We already knew BYU was locked up at the 4 seed. We knew most likely, and with a win that Iowa State had earlier today over Kansas State, that they would be the 5 seed. So who will end up playing the winner of either Oklahoma State or Cincy. So again, you like Iowa State coming out of that matchup against either one of those schools. So likely getting a rematch with Iowa State for in the Big 12 tournament, which would just be, I imagine, will end up being incredible. I don't imagine it'll go double overtime like last time, but should certainly be another great game, as we've seen between these two schools every time they've played so far, since BYU joined the Big 12. So let's get into this a little bit and break it down a little. BYU's 3-point shooting was atrocious. They missed a lot of open looks, both 3 and also in the paint, and just couldn't get things to go. I don't know if they're jittered or what in the beginning, but BYU, and maybe because they kept missing so much, the crowd wasn't as into it from the beginning. Expected a little bit more, and they certainly got into it as the game got going. I love the intensity, the energy that the Rock brings, and I know there's been a lot of consternation about the way that Rock tickets are handled, but nonetheless, great showing from the crowd, and I love hearing that, especially against Utah. So, all right, we got a comment in here. Let's go to that real quick. We got Talmadge Hokinson. Welcome back. Appreciate you watching the show and hopping in the chat here with us. Says breath of fresh air beating Utah. It really is, and that is the nice thing about playing twice a year. That after we disappointingly dropped the first one against them, that had a chance for a rematch, and it was good. Good to get that out of the way. But yeah, Utah, seems to, like, even last year, BYU was the better team and just couldn't get past them. But with BYU clicking right now, and the two schools kind of going in different directions. And that's not to say that Utah hasn't actually had some good wins here late in the season. Kansas and Kansas State, both made the trip to play both schools, and on that weekend, and both lost. So, but yeah, certainly not going the way BYU is. And so, anyway, exactly what we wanted to see. It was probably a little bit closer, a little more intense than I wanted for a while, but then it got to the point when it felt like BYU was in control of the game. But like I said, already Utah was they kept fighting and clawing back in there, and keeping the score closer than you'd like to see. But let's see here. I want to turn and look at the stats here with these guys. And first, trying to get my window set up here. I'm kind of curious because I haven't looked at the minutes breakdown yet. They don't usually put that up until the game ends, but Richie Saunders still with 24 minutes, not too far below his normal, even with the foul trouble. So, it's amazing. Even a very quiet game from him in foul trouble, sitting a little bit more than usual, he still ends up with 14 points. So, just love Richie and all that he brings to this team as the leader. But it's awesome to see other guys stepping up. And speaking of other guys stepping up, Yegor Demon looked fantastic tonight. He had some great passes. He was aggressive. He was taking it to the hoop, and he did take some threes. And let's see, he was over three. I thought he hit one. Goes to show. But I love it when he's aggressive and he takes it to the hoop, and that's what I want to see him doing. But yeah, and Nell, they all struggled, but when it mattered most, he came in and hit a big shot. Dallin Hall, it's funny that, like I said, it wasn't necessarily the seniors that were getting it done tonight. Dallin Hall, actually, he's only has 5 points too. Man, felt like he had a bigger impact than maybe what his stat line suggests. I feel like he was in the mix a lot. Boscovich coming in off the bench, really given well-needed minutes. And that was an important thing because BYU was getting beat on the rebounds, and they just didn't seem as aggressive. And the Utah's bigs were just having kind of like the first matchup, kind of having their way with BYU, but getting Boscovich in there, some added height, athleticism, obviously not more athletic than Keita, but in terms of being able to ball handle and shoot and give you kind of a different look with the bigs. Now, he's not necessarily our biggest rebounder, but get some more height in there and some hustle and just kind of a change of pace. I think he was something that BYU really needed it. And I think Kevin Young went to him a little bit more early, a little more heavily than he tends to. And so, again, that's Kevin Young showing that he's able to adjust and figure out, the personnel that he needs and get him in the game. So let's see here. Talmadge again says, I love that we are playing bad games and still winning. Signs of a good team. Yeah, absolutely. It was not a pretty game. People were struggling left and right. And we had some fantastic plays, and I felt like the team was engaged. It was just coming up short on these shots. But as you said, you can have that slow start against Iowa State, against West Virginia, against Utah, and still go through and figure it out. And nights when the threes and falling, like there's no way last year's team would have won this game if they went 9 for 26. Am I on the 19 for 26? So that's free throw. Sorry, 8 for 28. That would have just completely crippled the team last year. But to see them still come out and do what they did. Okay, this is wrong here. This is Foose with 21 points. That doesn't seem right. And now that I'm looking at that doesn't seem right here. What did Foose have? At 4 points. Okay. He's another one that I still think he had a positive impact on the game. He was in there. He had a block. He was playing defense. He was in the mix. And, he had a couple really good baskets. He had a couple other ones that he just left up short. But so, again, those seniors struggling a little bit, but it was a real team effort. I think everybody had their moments at one point or another and kind of did their thing. I love Trey Stewart. Oh, that three that he had off of good pass. Now it's running together, but if he had hit that, I think the building would have exploded. But I still almost more impressive was the block on the other end. That as soon as he missed, he just ran back and he was kind of out of sight off the screen, and then he comes out of nowhere and blocks that pass. Or that that shot there. So I love his energy and his intensity and everything he brings. I wish I could get your ESPN would post minutes on there, but Trey, only 9 minutes. Again, I felt like he was in there more. And so it just shows the kind of impact that he had while in there. Roy Wall says, workman-like performance, 0 to play for tonight, but the team stepped up in the end. Yeah, I mean, you're still kind of playing for seeding. You don't want to drop one like this and have that, affect where you end up in seeding. But yeah, BYU didn't really have much to play for in this game. I think that's a great point. Utah was playing for pride. BYU wanted revenge for that first game, and obviously you want to keep the win streak going and keep building on what they did here at this latter part of the season. So, but yeah, ultimately not the most. Not a whole lot on the line for the team. So yeah, I think that's a great point. And yet they stayed in it, and they wanted to send their seniors off with a win, not a second loss to Utah in one season and losing at home on the final game. It would have been such a Utah thing to do. But BYU didn't give in. They kept going, and you knew that at some point the offense would start clicking. They'd start getting those looks and some shots would start falling. And they believed it too, the way they were shooting. But man, their shots were so bad. I mean, look at this. Even Richie, 1 of 3, Mag, 1 of 3. And that one came later. Demon, 0 of 3. I guess that's par for the course. Nell, 1 of 6. Boscovich, 0 for 4. Downhall hit 1. And what a shot that was to end the half. That was awesome. Not quite at the level of the dunk against Iowa State, but it was up there. I mean, just because of the timing at the end of the shot clock, at the end of the half, nothing's been falling. And then to get that to go was it was just spectacular. It was a great moment. One of the top highlights of the game. I'd already mentioned Trey Stewart with that block. That was another awesome one. And we know that Keita had some great blocks in there too. Let's see how many. Was it just one? Man, I felt like there were more. But I'm actually surprised no one else has brought it up yet. It was a very messy game. The refs were all over the place. Of course, it's everyone's favorite pastime in the Big 12 to complain about the refs. The officiating was wild. They were getting it wrong, and really on both sides of the floor and on both teams. But I don't know. They were just really off on a lot, but I didn't want to make that the focus of this, because really at this point, it's just what it is. The officiating in the Big 12 was bad, and these games, it's just been atrocious, one game after the next. And so you're going to have to figure out how to win despite, the way the whistle's going. And especially when you get to March Madness, because you don't know how the refs are going to be officiating the game. It could be very different, and you got to have to figure out how to adjust and keep going. So 1-2. Hey, good evening. Welcome back. He says, tied for third in Big 12 in just a second season. What a season. Yeah, absolutely. It really has been. I mean, again, I think I've talked about this every time, but we're going into this like, hey, if BYU can come out of this Big 12 uh, schedule 10-10, we're happy. They get into the tournament most likely, and we'll see where it goes from there. And then it turned to the point when they went on that East Coast road trip to Cincy and West Virginia, and get just completely blown out by Cincy, and we're like, wow, they had to win at least one of these. Now they got to go to West Virginia, who's even better, and beat them just to try and kind of keep our hopes alive, because we're coming through the toughest stretch of the schedule, and they just figured some things out and have just turned on another gear, and it is amazing. And to see them peak at this time and to continue to, even when they struggle, as we were just talking about, to continue to find ways to win, stack wins and stack days, as Coach Young says. So, between football and basketball, what they've done is, BYU's really come in and shown that they are going to be a serious contender across the Big 12. We've already seen what they've done through cross country and some of these other sports and women's soccer, but to also be doing this in the two biggest sports, the two revenue generating sports, and really leave their stamp on the season, I think says a lot about this program. And this is what we've been waiting for. We knew, like, hey, give BYU a chance to get here. Utah loved to trash talk, loved to talk about how we were the little brother, how we couldn't keep up. It's just like, well, wait till it's an even playing field. And really, it's not even technically an even playing field yet, because BYU is not even a full revenue member. They're not even getting a full share until next season. So, it's quite an accomplishment. It's been so much fun, and just the way both programs are going, you just expect them to continue to build on that next year. So, all right, Jack is here in the chat, says, what are your thoughts on the new Big 12 tournament court? Yeah, I was hoping, I assume it will be, but I'm hoping that's the one that they had for the women's is going to be there for the men's, I'm assuming. And not a huge fan, not a big fan at all. Although I have to say, watching some games or some clips back from the women's tournament, it was easier to watch on than I thought. Like other courts like TCU and some of the weird ones out there, Oregon, it's very distracting and kind of hurts my eyes. But this one, not my favorite. Not a big fan of it, but it was easier to watch on it than I was expecting based on how different it is. But, that's Brett Yormark bringing his stamp in there, trying to do something fun and different. And he loves hoops. So I don't know. We'll see once we start watching a lot more basketball on there, how it goes. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. Good question though. Roy Wall says, coaching staff settled in quicker than I thought. The team really came together at every level. Yeah, the coaching, it's funny because early on, I was wondering why there were some things the coaching staff wasn't doing, because Mag wasn't playing a lot. And I was like, well, I thought that's why they brought him in. We need more defense or this or that. And it seemed like they were slow to adjust or still trying to figure out the team. And they probably were. And I'm sure there was a method to it. But it felt like, are they being too slow to adjust or whatever? And now that's one of their strengths, is that they've continued to adjust throughout the season and shown that they're able to do it during games and quickly. So, yeah, they really have settled in. I imagine it is, even coming in from the NBA, which is a higher level, it's just a different game and different nuances that you got to adjust to. And so, yeah, the coaching staff has been spectacular. Love Kevin Young, everything that he's doing, everything that he's building. So I think that is a big part of it. And the team followed right along with them, and you can tell they buy in and they all buy into their roles. I mean, it's not ideal for anybody, but getting fewer minutes or being shuffled around and not always certain when you'll be playing or what, but this team is all bought in and they understand and they know what their role is and they know how to, help support their team, that everyone succeeds and anyone could have a night. Like Dawson Baker, had himself a night tonight, and we knew it was a matter of time, and he still plays in, relatively limited minutes. Let's see what he had, 15 minutes tonight. So 15 points in 15 minutes. He was, and BYU needed it. Everyone was struggling scoring, and he broke the seal on the 3-pointer. So, I love what this coaching staff is putting together, and it's not just getting a bunch of talented players and sticking them out there on the court and just hoping they out talent everybody. I mean, we certainly do have some really talented guys, but there's real system and cohesiveness to this team that makes you think that they really do have the potential to do some damage as we continue here in March. Talmadge again says, do you think that a 7 seed is high enough for what BYU has been producing? No, it doesn't really feel nearly high enough. I would say BYU is at worst a 6 seed, but at least based right now, when you're looking how they're playing, what they've accomplished and where they're at right now, I mean, you do have to take the full season into account. I think, yes, you want to take into account and weigh how good this team is right now, but you also have to look at, okay, here's what they've accomplished and here's what, they've done all season. I mean, that's why you play those games. And so, I don't think they'll get to a 4 seed, possibly a 5 seed. We'll see how well the Big 12 tournament goes. But again, there's the whole Sunday thing where, it's most likely that they'll end up getting bumped down a seed to make the regions work and everything, and to avoid the Sunday part of the bracket. So for that reason, I still think it is possible that BYU ends up at a 7 seed, which would be really disappointing. But again, let's see, that would be 7-10, and that is avoiding the 1 seed, is it not, on the side of the bracket? So I don't know. At this point, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world. Sorry, but I don't know, and it's probably realistic. So I think we have to brace ourselves for that, especially if, let's say, they lose one to Iowa State, and in their one game in the Big 12 tournament. I don't know what kind of impact, like that wouldn't be a terrible loss, especially on a neutral court. But I don't know. It's a good question. But yeah, I do think 7 kind of feels like their floor at this point. I cannot see them dropping to an 8-9. But especially with this win tonight, that again, likely they're playing Iowa State, and I don't think a loss to them is really going to hurt them very much. So I would be very disappointed. I'd be disappointed if they drop to a 7. I'd be very disappointed if they drop lower than that. But let's see. Roy Wall, I thought it would take a decade before basketball was even competitive. They proved me wrong. Yeah, when we all thought the wheels were going to fall off the program when Pope left, and it's amazing to see that Kevin Young came in and kept things rolling, and not only rolling, but then he improved upon it in every facet. And it's just incredible. I did not expect the kind of success they're having right now for years to come. Even with Kevin Young coming in, we're like, okay, there's a lot of new guys, a lot of new coaching staff. If we make it to March Madness, we're happy. Like I kind of had realistic expectations going into the season, but man, teams completely proved me wrong, and all of us wrong. I think that didn't completely. I mean, not that we didn't think that this was possible, but we kind of felt like this was best case scenario. and it really is. But when you look at those games that BYU lost earlier on in Big 12 play, it's like a lot of those were winnable games. I mean, this team is very different from that team then, the team that and the way they're playing now. But it feels like um, that with just a few things going a little differently earlier in the season, that BYU's record and where they could be now in terms of ranked and seeding and everything. But I think they learned a lot from those losses. So maybe they're not who they are now if they hadn't gone through those losses and the beat down by Houston, but then tougher losses to like TCU, Utah, and so on. So at this point, I wouldn't trade it because I think BYU is coming out of it stronger, and I'm excited to see what they're able to keep doing. 1-2 says bracket matrix has BYU at 7 seed for March Madness. Some brackets as high as 5. Yeah, I looked at something today. I thought I saw 4 on there somewhere. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I definitely saw a 5 seed, and I'll take it. I don't think that's the case. You're right. It is a lot of 7 seeds now. I just pulled it up here. I can pull it up. You can't see, you're not going to be able to see it, but BYU's here on this line. It is a lot of 7s. I thought I remembered seeing more 6s. I don't know if things shifted throughout the day. Perhaps some other teams winning adjusted it. I don't know if these changed that quickly, but yeah, 7 seed looks to be where most have them projected. So BYU is still playing for something. They go in there and they're able to beat Iowa State again. I think that does shift that. I'm just afraid if they're pegged at a 7 seed and they're likely to drop down a seed lower than where they're expected to be, unless these already take that into account and they're saying, yeah, we think BYU is a 6 seed, but we kind of expect them to be bumped down. But I don't think I don't know. Maybe some of them do that, but I don't know if that's being taken into account. So BYU ends up as an 8 seed at this point. I'm going to be really frustrated with that. But again, nobody wants to play BYU right now. Let's say they are able to win an 8-9 matchup and they do go up against the number 1 seed. I feel like BYU's got as good a chance of winning that game as any 8 or 9 seed in the country. So, and that would be an incredible route to keep going. It's not the first time that's happened. And so why not BYU? All right. Talmadge says, is it bad that I don't miss watching Cannon play basketball? Where does he really fit in this roster? That is funny that you say that, because I hadn't really thought about him the last couple games. So, yeah, they really try to make it work with him. He definitely has talent, and there's things he can do well. I mean, I still think back to that game that he had, was it Baylor, where he was perfect. But yeah, I don't know. He had his moments, and he showed flashes of what he could do, but he never truly figured it out. You could tell he wasn't really used to not being the guy and playing at this higher level. And it's okay, because a lot of freshmen, I mean, think about it. Jimmer didn't play nearly as much his freshman year. Most Collinsworth, I'm just thinking back to a lot of these guys weren't coming in and expected to be huge impact players as freshmen. Cannon did a little bit because he has the draft stock and NBA aspirations, but I don't know. I think it's okay, but his shooting, when he's able to get his shot off, he's got a nice stroke, and he can, and that fits in. I think he plays, he has ability to frustrate people on defense. I've also seen him get blown by a lot and seen lack of effort. And other times I've seen him make great effort plays. So yeah, he's young. And so I think this team doesn't necessarily need him to keep doing what it's doing, I think, as they've shown. But I hope it, I'd love to see him go and get drafted in the NBA, or I'd love to see, with the talent, and see him come back a second year, what he could do on this team and put it together. But we'll see. He kind of seems like what everybody assumes is the most likely player on this team to transfer if he doesn't go to the draft. So anyway, we'll see there. 1-2 says KYU, Kevin Young University. I know, I love it. he is just completely, what he's done with this basketball program just completely surpasses anything I thought was remotely realistic. So love Kevin Young, love what he's doing. Hope he's here to stay for a very long time. So say 1-2 says, I don't see any scenario in which BYU is 8 seed. How can they be punished for losing to Iowa State? They are 7 or better. Yeah, I really think so. I mean, that's where the momentum is, but it seems like is that they're going to keep rising. But if they're already pegged at the 7 seed right now, I think there's risk of that happening, which would just be too bad. It would be really disappointing. But yeah, I really think BYU could push themselves to being higher than 7. And I don't think that's realistic or out of reach. Probably wouldn't help or hurt if some other teams around them lose and that they get a win in there. But again, that's just kind of positioning. I don't see anyone having any major drops. I don't know. I had to go through and look at all the tournament matchups and everything, and if anyone's got like a potential bad loss on there that could help move them down a bit. But let's see. BYU football. Hey, welcome back, and thanks for hopping in the chat. Says, I think it's a 3 seed plays 7 seed to advance to Sweet 16. Yeah. Oh, you're yeah. I think you're right there on that. So I would like BYU's odds as a 7 seed going up against a 3 seed. I'm trying to see who's here at 3 seeds right now. You got St. John's, Texas Tech, A&M, and Kentucky. Oh, can you imagine going up against Kentucky? I mean, it wouldn't be as fun with Jackson Robinson out, which is a big bummer. He came back taking a chance on himself and got injured. And it's too bad because I like Jackson Robinson. But yeah, it'd still be fun going up against Mark Pope and his team. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's not a team out there that I don't think BYU is going to at least be competitive with and be able to hang with. And so that would, but yeah, 3-7. So BYU is a 7 seed and able to make it to advance to the Sweet 16. I mean, I'd like their chances there. Martin Hughes says, we sometimes have to step back a seat because we don't play on Sunday. Yeah, I mean, it feels like that's generally the case. And, it's unfortunate and, it is what it is. But I appreciate BYU having standards and being willing to stand by that and not make exceptions. And, sometimes it punishes the program, but I think in the end, it's the BYU way. And all right, 1-2 says, let's go with the Big 12 tournament. Just 3 easy games away. Oh, to win 3 easy games. Does anyone have a link to a graphic of what the tournament would be? Because I have one, but I don't think this is how it's going to play out, because Jason Shear said if Baylor beats Houston, which that did not happen. So I don't think this is accurate, but I think it's close. Yeah. So Iowa State, and you'd have Houston after that, and then you get the winner out of most likely one of these guys. And of course, anyone could make a long run. Like Kansas State isn't playing great right now, but they basically made a run like this earlier in the season before BYU shut them down. So really anything could happen. I know that Houston is Kelvin Sampson is kind of notorious for not really taking the tournament as seriously. I think Kansas maybe is kind of that as well, although they might need to. So there is a path there, and honestly, I think BYU is right there on par with these top teams in the conference right now. So I do think, again, I think this bracket might be a little bit different at this point, but I think Yeah, I do like BYU's chances, and I will say, so I do hope to keep going on, but I'm and doing these live shows after games. But I'm looking at the 13th. Is that? Oh no! Oh no! Okay. Actually, that's great news. If this time is accurate, I'll have to go double check. I thought it was different. I am on the 14th. I'm going to a hockey game, and I wasn't even thinking about the Big 12 tournament when I agreed to go, and I was worried about it. But now with BYU, it looks like they're locked into play on Thursday night, which means I would be around for that. And if they did go on to win, I'd be able to catch the 15th. So that is very good news. Speaking of which, as we're talking about the tournament, I should say real quick, I've got another. We're going to do a preview show. I got the guys coming on from the college ball podcast the church ball podcast, and they're going to come on and we're going to preview the Big 12 tournament, kind of talk about the impacts and everything on their seeding into March Madness and what BYU is playing for here in this tournament, and kind of from the BYU perspective, but also the Big 12 perspective, and see what's kind of best for the conference as we watch this tournament play out. But anyway, should be a really good one. We'll have them on, so we'll look for that early next week before the tournament starts, and go check their stuff out, certainly. But anyway, yeah, I think that's it for tonight. I'm tired, and I know it's 1:15, but with daylight savings, it is now 2:15. Any other East Coasters watching? Let me know in the chat, because good for you for still being up, and appreciate you being here. But it is going to be a rough morning. Fortunately, I don't have any early morning church meetings. That's my wife, and she went to sleep a long time ago. So let's see. Scott Carter says, how do we watch the conference tournament? I had a college roommate named Scott Carter, but I'm pretty sure you're not him, because he does not care about sports. So let's see. How do we watch the conference tournament? That is a good question. You are a step ahead of me, my friend, and I'm guessing this is on. Actually, let's pull it up now. Give me just 1 second here, but there's a few things you can do. Oftentimes, you can get away with trying to watch it on YouTube if you don't have another streaming platform or way to do it. And a lot of games are, and they don't seem to crack down as much on basketball as they do football on YouTube. I don't know. It might be a little different when it's a Big 12 tournament here, but I feel like most of this should probably be ESPN, but it is, I'm not seeing that on here. So I did find the printable bracket though. And so we can look at the official bracket but it's not great sizing for the screen. So, so I won't pull that up. So yeah, I don't know. That is great. If anyone else knows which networks and everything to watch that on, let us know in the chat, so everyone can make plans accordingly so you don't miss out. But yeah, I would assume on ESPN, but again, at YouTube, and I know there's some other things out there and other ways to try to catch it. But let's see. BYU football says a little teaser: Jonathan Cabella, Big 12 freshman defensive player of the year. Is that are you calling it, or is that something that you've heard, or is that just your prediction? But seems like a reasonable. I mean, I believe it. So Scott Carter says, I live in Tooele. How do you say that? I always forget. Utah, age 65. Yeah, certainly we did not room together in college. And sorry, I always forget how to pronounce that every time I see it. Again, East Coaster. So I can't say Hurricane, though. Hurricane, Utah. I got that one down. But anyway, Yeah, like I said, it is late, so appreciate everyone for hanging in there, coming and joining in the chat with us. Gonna again be sure to like, subscribe, all that stuff, whatever. But just come back and check out our preview with the church ball guys. I'm really looking forward to that conversation and digging into this tournament a little bit more. As now that I'll have time to digest it and look at it a little bit more and get their insight. So anyway, appreciate you all, and nice to go to bed on another win as BYU continues to stack wins and stack accomplishments each day and each week. So, and we'll see you all next time. So go Cougs.